It's The Real News. I'm Aaron Mate. After vowing America first at home, President Trump continues to push Israel first in the Middle East. Trump has decided to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and move the American embassy there. Trump told regional leaders of his plan today, ahead of an expected announcement on Wednesday. Israel's illegal occupation of East Jerusalem has been a major flashpoint in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and Trump's decision provides a new level of U.S. support. His announcement comes just days after the indictment of Michael Flynn revealed that Trump started doing Israel's bidding even before he took office. In December 2016, the Trump team tried and failed to undermine President Obama's decision to allow a UN Security Council measure condemning Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank. I'm joined now by Ali Abunimah, co-founder of the Electronic Intifada. Ali, welcome. There was just a White House briefing with reporters talking about this move to move the embassy to Jerusalem. A White House official said that this is a recognition of reality that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. Your thoughts on this announcement?
Well, it sounds like it is just an announcement in the sense that the latest says that Trump is not going to actually move the embassy yet and will sign the waiver to delay that move for at least another 6 months. But on the other hand, it's a recognition of a reality that the United States has helped to create of Israeli control and occupation and incremental ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem to force the Palestinians out, to cleanse the identity of Jerusalem from its Muslim and Christian aspects, and to market Israel as an exclusively Jewish and Israeli city. So the U.S. is creating the reality that it claims to be recognizing.
And the reaction that we've gotten so far, a lot of criticism of the decision. Turkey, for example, the leader there, President Erdogan, called it a red line that the U.S. should not cross. Palestinian factions have called for 3 days of rage in response, protests over the decision. Referring to this as a red line, as opposed to all the other things that Israel has done, you pointed this out on Twitter, that there's sort of a double standard here in being outraged over symbolic acts, but not seeing red lines in the many crimes that Israel has committed up to this point.
Exactly. I mean, there was a statement today from the Organization of the Islamic Conference, basically 57 Muslim majority states, which reaffirmed that Jerusalem is occupied and that all of Israel's measures are illegal and so on. And that's fine. And it's fine for Turkey to take that position. The trouble is that Israel has gotten away with so much for decades, forcing Palestinians out, settling and colonizing East Jerusalem, as well as the rest of the West Bank, that the lack of international response for so many years, the failure to hold Israel accountable has really opened the way for this. The European Union, for example, is warning against this move by Trump. But what have they done for all these years? They surrendered the leadership of the so-called peace process to the United States. They utterly failed to hold Israel accountable themselves. Well, this is the result of putting the United States in charge and refusing to take action yourselves.
Do you think that this decision will finally push the Palestinian Authority to stop pretending as if it has a reliable ally in the U.S.? I know it receives U.S. financial support and has relied on that, but how can they get away in front of their own people with continuing to cooperate with the U.S. on things like security, quote-unquote, cooperation in the West Bank, when President Trump has handed them this humiliation of moving the embassy to Jerusalem?
Yes, this comes just months after Mahmoud Abbas stood side by side with Donald Trump out of at the White House and praised the quote-unquote wisdom of Donald Trump and said, "Mr. President, with you we have hope." It really is a sort of yet another humiliation for Abbas. But look, I don't think it will change their approach. I heard PA officials today in media saying how this undermines the position of the United States as an honest broker. I mean, who but the most deluded person could have ever thought the United States was an honest broker and that you only needed this to somehow make the US seem biased? The reality is they have no other strategy. The Palestinian Authority is there because of US support and Israeli support and support of the European Union, and not by virtue of really having support among Palestinians. But look, you know, back in the summer when Israel made this move to try and tighten its control over the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, the Palestinians in Jerusalem surprised everyone with weeks of nonviolent civil disobedience, which drove Israel into retreat. And so that's where I do see hope, is that despite decades of Israeli efforts to weaken the Palestinian presence in Jerusalem, to drive out Palestinian institutions and civil society, the ordinary people of Jerusalem, the ordinary Palestinian people of Jerusalem, showed that they're still determined to defend the city. And so that really matters.
You know, Ali, on the point you made about the U.S. not being an honest broker in this conflict long before President Trump came along, I wanted to ask you about this supposed peace plan of Trump. So the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has reportedly presented it to Mahmoud Abbas, and there's been a lot of criticism of it. There was a piece in the New York Times called "Talk of a Peace Plan That Snubs Palestinians, Royals, and Middle East." And what was interesting to me about it is that the elements of the Saudi-Trump peace plan that people are rightfully saying is not very fair to the Palestinians sounds exactly like the so-called generous peace plan that Ehud Barak and Bill Clinton offered Yasser Arafat in July 2000, for which Arafat was denounced for rejecting, even though it's basically the same thing. It's most of the illegal settlements stay in the West Bank. Palestinians don't have sovereignty over actually East Jerusalem, and there's no right of return for refugees.
You're exactly right. It's warmed over, rehashing of the same plans that date back to the 1990s for a Palestinian Bantustan, which would be a state in name only. Palestinians living under permanent Israeli occupation, apartheid, separated into little bits of territory here and there where they can say we have a state, but in reality they have no control. It even revives this laughable idea from the 1990s, the so-called Abu Dis plan, where the small village of Abu Dis, which is near Jerusalem, would be renamed Al-Quds, and the Palestinians could declare a capital there instead of in the actual city of Jerusalem, which would be completely swallowed up by Israel. So, you know, it really contains nothing new. By the way, Abu Dis currently is a village that a large part of whose land Israel has confiscated to use as an illegal garbage dump. So according to the Trump, Jared Kushner, Saudi plan, the Palestinian capital would be essentially in a garbage dump.
If I recall right, that Abu Dis plan was actually presented as part of this, again, the so-called generous peace offer that was given to Yasser Arafat, and for which, again, he was roundly condemned in liberal media here in the U.S. by politicians for rejecting. So it's interesting to see that now revived under Trump. Finally, Ali,
the one thing that's important to note that's different now is the regional context, where you have this Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who is pressuring the Palestinians to accept things that even Abbas can't accept. And the motivation there is to liquidate the Palestinian cause and push it aside as an issue that stands in the way of a full consummation of the Saudi-Israeli alliance, whose main target is this obsessive enmity that Israel and Saudi Arabia have towards Iran. And the Palestinians are the sacrificial lamb in that. And in this sense, Jerusalem can be seen as the Saudi dowry or wedding gift to Israel.
We'll leave it there. Ali Abunimah, co-founder of the Electronic Intifada. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
And thank you for joining us on The Real News.